Good evening. Welcome to Suffering in Silence with Tia May. We're here on Luv Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We're here every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Luv Bay family, we're rising out of the ashes together. Our topic on this evening is, what does a healthy relationship look like? Our co-host is Pastor May Davis of Greater Works Christian Ministries, and our guest this evening is Pastor Henry L. Presley Jr. of Faith Empowerment Worship Center. Listeners, if you have any questions or comments for our guest or co-host, you can email sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. If you have resources that you would like to share with us on a national or local level from your country, your community, or your local organizations, or your faith community, you can also email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. So, Pastor May, would you like to start us off by greeting our listeners on this evening?
Good evening, good evening. I've missed all of you that have been listening all over the world. I've been away for a little bit, but on tonight, I'm just happy to be back on the discussion panel on tonight and co-hosting with our host, Tia May, and our special guest on tonight, Pastor Presley from Faith Empowerment Worship Center. So I'm excited tonight because I have a special relationship with him as well. So, he's like a son to me. So Mama gets a chance to talk to her son about relationships. Oh my God! And I don't want him to hold back anything just because I'm the mom. Okay, so we're gonna be real on tonight. Now, and I can appreciate that, and I'm sure you guys are going to appreciate it as well.
Awesome, Pastor Presley. Would you please introduce yourself to our Luv Bay listeners?
Yes, God bless everyone. My name is Henry L. Presley Jr. I am the pastor of Faith Empowerment Worship Center here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Been doing this for about 7 years now, and I praise God for it. And I look forward to the opportunity. And so God bless. I'm ready to get started.
So, Pastor Presley, how can listeners reach you at Faith Empowerment Worship Center? What is your address, your email address? Are you visiting in person now, or you're online?
Yes, we are all the above. We do Zoom, but if you want to reach us, our address is 15 South 4th Street, and that's Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 17101. That's Faith Empowerment Worship Center, 15 South 4th Street, and that's Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 17104. We can also be reached by email address, which is faithempowermentworshipcenter.org. Once again, that's faithempowermentworshipcenter.org. And we can also be reached on Facebook by Faith Empowerment Worship Center.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, listeners, as usual, we want to start with sharing some resources. For the area of Nova Scotia, we have the Transition House Association of Nova Scotia. The phone number is 1-855-225-0220. Then we have Prince Edward Island Anderson House. The phone number is 1-800-240-9894. That's for PEI. Then we have 902-892-0960. That's for local calls. And we also have Newfoundland and Labrador, the Channel Warm Line. The phone numbers are 1-855-753-2560 and also 709-753-2560. So, listeners, as we get to our topic on tonight, which is, what does a healthy relationship look like? So, unfortunately, a lot of individuals, I believe, have not had healthy, whole relationships demonstrated in front of them. And I really think a lot of us try to operate by not doing what we saw modeled in front of us, because we know it was wrong. But at the same time, we still have to figure out exactly, what is right, what is the right way, because we didn't see that model. So literally like feeling around in the dark, trying to figure out how this thing is supposed to go. And it isn't just romantic relationships. Some of us struggle with parent-child relationships, friendships, employer-employee relationships. I think any dynamic where there's a power difference or a difference in roles that need to cooperate with each other, in order to operate cohesively with each other, I think we can have issues with any type of relationship. And then if you add in the factor that one or both of the parties in a relationship may have dealt with or is dealing with any type of abuse or trauma, that's a whole other layer on top of a relationship that most likely is already problematic. So I think really, Pastor Presley, I just want to go right to you. Please tell us what a healthy relationship looks like.
Well, for me, I'll approach it from two different ways. One is the healthy relationship with God.
Yes.
Having a relationship with God where not only do I say I'm a man of God, but I act as a man of God. I listen to God in everything, and I put him first in my life. But the second relationship that I really would put it up here would be a man that's been married for 25 years to my wife, Tamara Presley, who I love and adore. And I still think she's the most beautiful and most sexy woman on earth. And I still date her. I still court her. And I still love her. After having 3 kids and everything, our love to me has grown even more so. And I believe that because when we got married, I'll be honest, I didn't know everything what to do. But what I did do is I put our relationship in God's hands. And I asked him to teach me how to love this woman that you blessed me with. And I didn't move quick. I waited for an answer. And God had to show me. And one of the things that I had to do when I got married was I found out early that I had to learn to listen to my wife. You can be in church and everything, and people will say, your wife will say one thing to you, and you'll just shake your head and go, huh? Then you get into church, and one of the pastors or a deacon or somebody will say something, and you'll say, oh, that's God, hallelujah. But your wife just said it to you. And
Right.
and so I had to figure out early that, God created my wife to help me. And I didn't want to push her away. I want to make her my ally. And so I tell her everything. We have no secrets. I tell her, one of the things we say all the time is closets are created for clothes. So we don't put our business in the closet. We put clothes in the closet. So if I'm married to my wife and my wife and I are supposed to be one, we can't be one with secrets between us.
Right.
We can't be one when one has one opinion and the other one has the other one. And we definitely can't be one if only one voice. It's 2 of us trying to grow as one. So I had to listen to her as I want to be understood. And the last thing I'll say is when people of God, even when we argue, we know that we don't have there's no relationship that's perfect. We're not perfect people. We're perfect people. We're imperfect people trying to serve a perfect God. So I say this, when my wife and I got together, we decided that when we do disagree, we argue to get our point across, not to hurt each other. So we had to learn to fight faith. Mm-hmm. Amen. So, and when you do that in love, there's no low blows, because you shouldn't have a low blow with someone that you say you love. Right.
So as far as speaking about an argument, I do believe there is a healthy way to argue. You can disagree, and the Bible says that be angry, but do not sin. So, I mean, you can get your point across, or you can try to get your point across and not be happy about a situation or about a topic. But you don't have to be mean. You don't have to be disrespectful. You don't have to be verbally or emotionally abusive to get your point across. And I want to ask you, you said you prayed to God, you asked God to teach you how to deal with your wife. Did you have any role models at all or any kind of instruction in front of you, as a young man or even older or being in ministry, how to operate in a relationship? Or did you just have to just go to God because you didn't see anything modeled in front of you?
I did not really see a good model in front of me. My mom and dad was divorced when I was 4 years old. And the man that my mom ended up getting with after that did not care for me. So we didn't have that. But what happened for me is every bad thing I learned from it. I tried my best to learn from it. So when I didn't see it, even when I got with my wife and I knew that she would be the one, I said, God, I've never seen any healthy relationship. You're going to have to teach me. I need you to teach me how to be not only a man, but a husband. Mm-hmm. How am I supposed to love this woman that I've never seen how to be good with? Or I've never seen a good model in front of me to model myself after. Mm-hmm. And God said to me, I'm going to show you. Mm-hmm. And he did. And so that's what I would say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Pastor May, how do you approach the topic of a healthy relationship when you and Pastor Davis are sitting before couples for marriage counseling? How do you approach it with them, with two individuals wanting to come together and be one, who may not know what a healthy relationship is or how to accomplish it or how to grow it? How do you approach that from that point of view with individuals coming to you? I want to get married.
Yes, sometimes before you even get into the and actually we don't call it counseling, we call it coaching, mm-hmm. because we approach it from a team effort scenario. Team Davis, Team Presley, we're a team and teams work together. And a lot of times teams need coaching, and that's what we do. We coach them into learning how to have a good relationship. One of the key things that Pastor Henry referenced was communication. And a lot of times when we have sat in front of couples planning out their weddings, or even have gotten married and have not learned how to communicate with each other, a lot of times they come in wanting to tell you all the bad stuff
right.
about the other person before we can really get into discussing communications. So we allow them to communicate, but we tell them, listen, you got to play fair. We're not here to point the finger, but we are here to, if there is a resolve that needs to be taken care of before you get married, mm-hmm. this is the place to come together and we'll have to discuss it about. We do give each one the opportunity to say their piece. Sometimes it's interrupted by the other one because they want to say, oh, no, you're not telling that right, or it didn't happen that way. We have to allow them to play. We have to encourage them to play fair. Allow the one person to speak, and then allow the other person to speak as well. And then what we do is allowing them the opportunity to both have their say. Mm-hmm. Then my husband and I will basically kind of critique them and bring them to a place of what you should be looking at and what you shouldn't be looking at, and try to communicate that to them, kind of give them some principles about how to argue or how to have a disagreement, and also teaching them, so that's, I guess you call it argument resolution or of some sort. We also talk to them about writing things down. A lot of times people can't articulate how they really feel, so they're unable to really communicate their actual feelings. So we allow them to have like little, I guess, what you would call I can't think of the word I want to use right now, but allowing them to each take a turn, write down what you would like to say,
Right.
and communicate it that way, because you can't say it verbally, or you don't know how to say it, you know. So we do a little techniques to help them communicate to one another, allowing them to write down some things. All right, give me 10 things that you would like to see, both of them, you know, on their own, and then 10 things that you don't see. And let's see if we can get to a place, a happy medium, to where we can say, okay, this is what you need to do to fix this, so this person can say, all right, I'm feeling better about that. Mm-hmm. So we give them little techniques to help them communicate when they can't talk, or don't know how to talk, or don't know how to relay their feelings. A lot of time men hold back what they really want to say. Mm-hmm. They're not always willing to really talk about their relationship, even if they're planning on getting married. You know, they hold back. One thing, you know, a lot of times, and some men and some women, they don't like to tell their business, or they don't like sitting in front of people having to discuss their relationship. Mm-hmm. So now you got a communication issue. You don't want to communicate with each other, and you want to get married. And now you sit between two people that are trying to help you get to a place where you will have a good relationship, and they don't want to communicate with us. So we try to get them to communicate their feelings, their concerns, and be able to discuss them openly with us. It's confidential, mm-hmm. you know, and try to help them resolve those issues so they can move forward in their relationship.
Mm-hmm. So you said a bit earlier, you talked about resolving issues. And I think sometimes in order to resolve an issue, when you want to move forward, I think sometimes you got to go backward. You got to go back through your life. So, Pastor Presley, how would you address, you know, that issue with individuals on trying to be a healthy individual, trying to deal with yourself, trying to deal with your past, because you can experience some things in your childhood and then take that into your marriage, and it all spills out on your spouse because you're looking to somebody else to now make you whole, but you haven't dealt with yourself in order to resolve those issues. And so that's what I think of going backward in order to move forward. So how do you speak to individuals about caring for themselves before they can go be a part of a relationship trying to join with another person?
I would say one of the biggest things that we do is we don't want to deal with things that hurt us.
Yeah.
A lot of times because we don't know how to do it. A lot of things happen when you were young. And how do you fix something? How do you fix an adult problem as a child? You know, how do you, as a young person thinking, how do you deal with adult issues? You got to deal with big men issues or grown woman issues as a teenager. Mm-hmm. And those things are hard. And so they become unresolved. They get glossed over. You go through it. And then you try to bring that to a relationship. And unresolved issues find their ways into relationships, and they end up killing relationships. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I would say a lot of times is we especially as people of color, if I could say that, mm-hmm. Mental health and things that happened to us back then, we don't really want to talk about. And so that's why we do a thing when we do marriage counseling. One of the things I try to do is my wife and I, we try to disarm. We want to disarm you that the past happened, but you're past it. Mm-hmm. And we got to figure out what it is so that you can get past it, because now you can't bring that into this relationship because it's not going to help you. So if we disarm and we can get to the problem, then we can find out in a relationship, is this lust or love?
Right.
You know, do you love me or do you lust me? You know, and not only that, then do we have a plan for what we want to do? Do we have goals? Do we set goals that we want to do? You know, sometimes we don't spend time to get to know the other person.
Right.
And then a lot of times is we don't spend time to get to know ourselves. Mm-hmm. we go from one issue to the next issue because we want that issue to be covered. So we'll jump into something else, but we never deal with it. We have to deal with it in order to get out of it.
Yes. And then can you talk about that point of, because I know a lot of individuals are looking for relationships just because they think this other person is going to make them whole. They think this other person is going to make them happy. So can you speak about that, trying to find your happiness in someone else?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I would say a lot of people that do that with self-esteem and everything else, but you should never look for a person to complete you. A person is supposed to enhance you,
yes,
not complete you. Amen. So if you're looking for somebody to complete you, it'll never work. It doesn't work out usually. And I use the 100% method, where when you're in a relationship, everybody wants to give 100%. But usually when you get into that relationship, there are going to be times when, you giving 80, that person's giving 20, and then, then when they're going through something, you're giving 80, you're 20. But there's some relationships where you start off at you giving 20, that person's giving 20, you giving 10, you giving 80, that person's giving 20. And that goes all the way through the relationship. And then after a while, you decide that I want this to change. I want more. And when you bring that to your mate or that person, they say, why are you starting? Why are you bringing up trouble? Why are you starting trouble? And actually they have a point, because it never you bought in at 80% and 20%. And now you're trying to change the ratio.
Yeah.
And so if we don't allow ourselves to not only take pride in ourselves, get to know ourselves, get to love ourselves. If you don't love you, how can somebody else love you?
Right.
If you don't respect yourself, you can't count on somebody else to respect you. So it starts with you. You have to learn to look in the mirror and love what you see. You got to look in the mirror and say, you know what, despite my problems, despite what I went through, and despite what I've done, I am beautifully and wonderfully made. And I'm not a mistake. I'm not an accident. And God has forgiven me for my past.
Yes.
And I have to forgive myself also. So.
Thank you. Pastor May, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, one of the things that, as I said, when we sit in front of couples, or even dealing with family issues, in relationships with family, and parents and children can't agree, siblings are having issues to agree. As you're talking about, you have to resolve the past. A lot of times, they don't want to talk about the past. They don't want to remember the past, and they don't relate it to the issues of what's going on during the now season that they're in. They don't want to relate it to it. They want to basically play the blame game, and nobody wants to take responsibility of their part in whatever the situation was or is or continue to be. And one of the things that when we talk to people, when there is an issue, when there is a problem, and that problem is brought to the forefront, we try to get them to take responsibility for it. Okay, you did that. Right. Okay, and take the responsibility and saying yes. But I find people, they don't want to take the responsibility. They want to blame the other individual.
Right.
And so we really try to bring people to the front of saying, okay, I did it, and apologize for it, and come to the agreement that if you want to do better, how do we make this situation better? How do we change what you did, or do you want to change it? Sometimes people don't want to change, and so you're sitting across the table of a couple that comes in that wants your help, but you got one individual that doesn't want to change, don't think they need to change, and then you're pretty much at an impasse. And that could be family between siblings, that could be parents with children. As parents, sometimes we don't admit, sometimes we kind of messed up, okay? We may not have done the right thing at that particular time. We thought it was best, but we found out now it's an issue that your son or your daughter is having at this time, and it ends up being an esteem issue. It may end up being a jealousy. They thought that you liked one sibling better than the other. Talking about the parent loved one sibling better than the other sibling, and you have all of these issues. But sitting down, I find sitting down, talking about it definitely does help. I know when our children were coming up, we had family meetings, and to tell us what's going on, or if you were mad with us because we chastised you or passed a law in the house that you don't like, okay, you can talk to us about it. May not change, but
Right.
at least it may not change the law that's been passed, but we gave them an opportunity to talk about it. And at the end of the day, we're still your parents. You were wrong, and this is the law that's being passed, okay?
Right.
And it's something that you're going to have. Life is not always fair the way you like it to be, and
Right.
this is something that you're going to have to deal with.
Right. I know of. I speak to adults now that still dwell on issues from their childhood, and I say dwell because they're not dealing with it. They're not going back to their parents and talking to them about things that have happened. I know adults today that are upset because their parents never said, "I'm sorry, I was wrong." And some of those same adults are having issues with their spouses because instead of seeing their spouse, they're communicating and treating their spouse as if that's my mother or my father. Like, my mother did this to me, my father did this to me, you just did this. And instead of dealing with reality right then and there, it's like they're that child again dealing with that parent. So,
I can attest to that being real.
Right, yes.
For myself. I didn't know how to, and to learn how to argue or how to give a discussion. I was shut down because my daddy, called Roscoe, okay, when he and my mom began to fight, when they argued, they fist fight. So for me, arguments would lead to a fist fight, or them throwing down, passing licks, or whatever. My parents were abusive, so had an abusive relationship. So when my husband and I could not articulate to him how I felt. I could not argue with him because I was afraid that we might end up fighting. Now, he was not Roscoe, okay? He was nothing like Roscoe. But there was something on the inside of me that when it happened, it triggered, and I had not gotten over that. Mm-hmm. And had not viewed him as not being my dad. You are not my dad, So I had to get to that place. So right. I don't know if Pastor Henry, can you kind of talk about that if you don't mind me asking him about those type of relationships when, as Sister Tia has already said, triggers from your childhood, right? And then trying to master those triggers when you get into a relationship. And some people shut down. I shut down, until I learned how to deal with it. And it took a whole lot of prayer. Okay, a whole lot of prayer for me. That's what it did for me. But
when there's a trauma or something that happens in your childhood, and a lot of times when things happen, usually, not often, but usually, it happens a lot of times where you had the child early, the parents were young, and they had a child, and that child ended up growing up with them, right, wrong, or different, and they saw things, they were a part of things, they seen things, and now that child was neglected, hurt, or went through a lot of stuff as they were growing up, and that became a hard part in their lives that they don't want to relive, but that child needs answers. Even though the child is now grown and they experienced things. Because remember, they grew up with you. Had a child at 18 and 21. That child's going to grow up with you. And so a lot of abuse and everything. And one thing I found out with that's hard is people, they can say they went through it, but they don't want to tell you what all they went through. And that's why I say it's good to learn how to disarm them, make them feel comfortable to speak to you, because they have to get it out. Because if they never get it out, it's going to go from relationship to relationship. It'll keep going and growing. And one of the worst things is not to be hurt, but to eventually become damaged. It's one thing when you're hurt and when you're broken, because broken things can heal, but when you're damaged, that got to now be dealt with. It got to be cut out and stuff like that. So you don't want the person to carry it to the point of being damaged, because every man they see did this. Every woman they see did this. I can only go so far because I don't want this to happen to me again. I don't want to be in this no more, especially in an abusive relationship. I give power to people that can move on from after that. I think it takes great courage and power not only to talk about it, because I believe that in talking about it, it frees you. Talking about it takes the power away from what was done, because abusers work in the dark. They keep you isolated. They keep you from things. So, and if you allowed your mind to stay in the dark by not telling anybody, not speaking on it, you stay caught in it. Amen. So I take my hat off to those women and those people that were in abusive relationships, and I would urge listeners, talk about it. Don't give it power. Take the power away from it. That's right. By talking about it, by bringing it up, by sharing it. You'll never understand the impact that you might have, and somebody else might even connect with you by you telling that story, or telling what you went through. So I encourage people of God, or just people, period. Yes, we've been through some things. Yes, childhood, relationships, everything else didn't fail. But if we don't deal with it, we don't want to take it like luggage and pack it and take it into our next relationship. Yes. We want to jet this and leave this right here in the past. It's called the past because we're past it. So we want to leave it in the past. It happened in the past. We want to leave it in the past, but we want to deal with it so our past won't be in our present, and we don't take it into our future.
Yes.
Are you about ready to make your announcement about the other?
You want to? You can go. You can go.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking while he was talking, and people we have sat in front of, and they sat in front of us. I have found that they don't want to let it go, even though we keep telling them. They relish in it. It helps to soothe them. I don't know how it does, but they cuddle it and hold on to it, and somehow, some way, it makes them feel. They say it makes them feel better. We see them as a train wreck or a wreck getting ready to happen, But they don't want to let it go. And one of the hardest things that I find is people don't want to let it go. They want to hold on to it. They want to hold on to the hurt. They want to hold on to the anger. And I find it difficult sometimes when I'm talking to people on trying to, as Pastor Presley said, let the past be what it is. It has passed. But they keep bringing it up. They keep nurturing it and keep feeding it. And it's some way or another, it seems as though that they are soothed or whatever it is that keeps them comfortable with it, but yet they're still hurting. Pastor Presley, I see your fingers waving and.
Yeah, I think with that, I don't believe that they don't want to let it go. Some people don't know how to let it go. When you've been dealing with it so long and it never got resolved, or you don't know how to resolve, or people that you tried to confide in told you just deal with it, stay strong, and do all of that. Those are all great things, but that's not helping me deal with it. And after a while, if it's been a part of you so long, you kind of give it a name now. It's a part of you. It grows up with you. It becomes everything. It smiles with you. It laughs with you. It cries with you. It's with you. The problem that we don't know how to help people get out of it. If it's been in you so long, you sitting there in front of somebody, and I'm not saying this to anybody in particular, but you just can't say, listen, you're a counselor now, bring it out. That's not going to happen. You got to come up with ways, and it's confident on us to really come up with ways to kind of talk to the people, to disarm them, to show them that, some of it is just trust. Mm-hmm. You got to be trusted in order to get, you got to be trusted for people to share some of their most vulnerable things that happen to them. Yeah. And you may not be the first person that they sat in front of, but you want to be the first person that can be trusted. Trust is earned.
Yes.
You got to earn trust. You just don't give trust. You got to earn trust. And especially with something that I'm trusting you with, and that's what happened to me, what I'm carrying. And we also got to show them that we empathize with that. Yeah. I know that hurt you. And that may not have happened to me, but I'm hurt that it hurt you. Mm-hmm. So how can we help you get out of that? I want to help you, but in order for me to help you, I need you to confide in me so that we can get it out. Because really, more of them getting it out. And before you know it, once you disarm them and you speak that language that's going to help them get it out, and they see that they can trust you, that you got a godly trust. Because a lot of people are scared that if they say it, it's going to be used against them later.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. They don't want, the worst thing that you want to ever have is somebody to use you against you. Because you bared yourself, and then at a later time, because they might have got mad, upset with you, now they're going to use that against you. So they got to have a trust that will never come back to bite them or never come back to hurt them. So I would say it's not that people don't want to talk. It's just that we got to get with God to see how we can get them to talk, how they can get them to. And one of the things I say, you just be honest up front and be empathetic with them. And let them take you there. Sometimes everybody is different. Everybody's hurt is different. They could have been through the same thing, but every hurt is different. And even though it could have been abused the same way, but that abuse to that person is different. Yes. And they might, just because it's not that they don't want to tell it. Some of them just don't know how to tell it. Because bringing that back up brings up a lot of emotions that they don't want to deal with. Yes. A lot of thoughts that you don't want to deal with. And it's not that they want to sit in it and marry to it. It's just, that's painful. They went through an ordeal. And how do we tell them, and how do we get them to burn that ordeal and say, you know what, daughter, you know what, son, thank you, and I love you for sharing that, and I'm here with you. And no matter what happened, I'll never let that happen to you again. And I mean that. So we got to come up with different ways to and we got to have patience. Yes. Patience. That was a big ordeal. Like what you were sharing, Pastor May. That took a lot. You saw it, the fighting and everything, and listen, that looked like a healthy relationship. If they can say something, I say something too. And then with relationships too, one of the things that people love to fight, and then they love to make up.
Yes.
And then that covers all that happened until it happened again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, it's fun making up, but then if it happens again, now you got to go through the whole cycle all over again.
Mm-hmm.
It
Thank
becomes
you
a
so
cycle, and then after a while, you ain't trying to make up no more. Okay, I ain't wanting to make up with you no more. Okay, because this is happening. The same thing is going around, and we end up making up, and nothing comes out of the makeup.
Right. Well, Luv Bay, we want to welcome you again to Suffering in Silence with Tia May on Luv Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We're here every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern with a replay on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern. Luv Bay, we are continuing to rise out of the ashes together. I want to take a moment and share some more resources with you. From Hamilton County, we have Women Helping Women. Their phone number is 513-381-5610. In Highland County, we have Alternatives to Violence Center, and this is in Hillsborough. Their number is 937-393-8118. And we have Mercer County Family Crisis Network. Their number is 419-586-1133. So back to our topic of what does a healthy relationship look like? I was just thinking, when we're considering romantic relationships, I want to say that you have to have friendship outside of sex. If friendship doesn't exist, then you don't have anything. There has to be communication outside of the bed. You know, can you talk to each other? Do you hear each other? Do you even like each other? You know, I know specifically women that I speak to, they think because this man is sexually attracted to me, or he wants to have sex with me, or he has had sex with me, that means that he loves me. No, it doesn't. It does not mean that.
Not at all.
So, Pastor Presley, would you address that part of a relationship? Sex does not mean that your relationship is healthy.
No, it doesn't. Matter of fact, if he can't talk to you and tell you about himself, take you somewhere, don't want to be with you in public, 9 times out of 10, we used to have a name for that back in the day when I was coming up. That was called a booty call.
It's still called a booty call.
All right, I've been out the booty call business, but if that's all you are when you are called, mm-hmm. or when that person's with you and all they want to do is be with you physically, there's more to you than just physically.
Yes.
You know, there's more to you. There's your mind, there's everything. And if you cannot express that in this relationship, then this is a unhealthy sexual relationship. What they used to call it, friends with benefits, all that good stuff. But that doesn't constitute a healthy marriage. You know, matter of fact, lust doesn't last.
Right. Lust
has never kept a man or a woman. You know, I hear, people talk about exploits in bed and swinging from chandeliers and everything else, but then after that, where's the relationship?
Right.
And I say this to women all the time. You know, it's an old thing, but it still works. Why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? You know, why would I wife you if I'm getting all the wife benefits without wifing you?
Right.
Why would I open doors and pay all of this and do all of this and I don't have to? You know, one thing about men, we like to pursue, and women are created to be pursued. Mm-hmm. So let me hunt you, let me court you, let me date you. Mm-hmm. You know, I know people got different rules and everything, but we're Christians, so you shouldn't have sex before marriage anyway. But I would say, I would make sure that man, that woman, line up with the values that I want.
Yes.
You know, when you sit there, I think we all done this when we were little. We used to sit there and write what we would want as a mate. We want him to do this, we want him to do that, and everything else. And all of a sudden, we started meeting people that started being less than what we were writing on.
Right. Start changing the list.
Yeah, you start changing the list. See, so that means you compromise.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and you shouldn't compromise. That list, that list should be followed. You want a man that dressed well. You want a man that speaks well. You want a person that looks good. I know people say that I want somebody that's intellectual, but you got to look at them.
It gotta be pleasing to the eye a little bit.
Something. I know. You sit up there and you say, oh, well, they got to have a good sense of humor and everything. And that's all true. But they got to look you to whatever you like. You got to look like something. Mm-hmm. And not only that, they got to treat you like you're worth.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I put a value on my wife. I did. My wife is valuable. She is a rare diamond, and I know her worth. That's why I keep her shined up.
Oh, you listen to that you. You better go ahead, son. You better talk that love language. I hear you.
And everybody that knows me know that's what I do. Mm-hmm. I'm not just talking. That's what I do. Because if I may for a minute, when you look at the Bible, and you look at Genesis 2:18, and it talks about, it's not good for man to be alone. Mm-hmm. It's not good for man to be alone. So God created a helpmeet. And so a lot of us as men, this woman, and I heard Miles Monroe say this, late Miles Monroe say this, this woman, this smart woman, her intellect, her this and everything, we're not to be intimidated. She's designed to help us. She's designed to help us. And she's designed to with all her intellect, her beauty, her mind, body. So all of that God put in there to help us. And our job is to have a vision so that she can help with it.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Right. And as long as we got a vision that she can see herself working in and that she can work with us, like I tell my wife all the time, and I heard this, somebody talk to me today. They said that their husband said that he can't pastor without her. I say the same thing. I can't do this without my wife. God didn't call me, he called we.
Absolutely.
And contrary to popular belief, our house is our first ministry.
Yes.
Is my first ministry, not the church. Jesus is coming back for the church. I'm married to Tim.
You better come on here. You got the love language going on here tonight. Listen at you.
So I just say with me stopping here, you got to know your worth, and please don't put time on it. Put God on it.
Yes.
Because some of us say, my clock is ticking, or I haven't had nobody in 2 years, or it's looking slow, it's looking slim, and everything else. No, God got somebody just for you.
Absolutely.
If you wait on him, and in your past doesn't make a difference, because we all got past. Some of us got two of them. So, but if you just believe in God and have faith in God, I say this all the time when we counseling people to get married. There's a wedding, but after the wedding, there's a marriage.
Yes. That's right.
Yes, we're doing all this for the wedding, but then, some people don't make it past the wedding. But there's a marriage, and a marriage takes three. It takes three. God, them, and you. Because in every marriage, there's going to be good and there's going to be bad. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs.
Yeah.
But can you stand in it with this person?
Wow. So, Pastor May, I want to address my next point to you, and then Pastor Presley, you can follow up with it if you have thoughts. But my next thought was that communication is key, in the sense that you actually need to talk and share words face to face in a real conversation, not just text messages, not DMs, not emails, but actually sit down together and have a conversation. I know, I guess it's the age of today with the texting and stuff. It's like people have lost the art of communication, and I always said this, and people thought I was, being funny, but I'm not. And I'm like, look, if you're going to lie to me, lie to my face. let me see you. I want to see your eyes. I want to see your body language.
That's it.
I want to see your facial expressions. Like,
absolutely.
Let me see this, in person, a real conversation. So, as far as communication in that way, personally, what do you think about that? I mean, real conversations.
Yeah. Stop texting me. Do on me. FaceTime me. Okay? Stop texting me. I don't like texting anyway. All right. But I will do it if that's the person that's texting me. But then I'll stop and say, hold up. This conversation is getting too long. Okay? Do on me or FaceTime me. So we can talk face to face. We're in the dispensation of, okay, we can't physically see everybody that we like to because the pandemic is still here. But if I can see you because of technology, okay, let's talk on technology. We have done some coaching sessions on Zoom. Okay, I need to see the people that I'm talking to. I read body language. Okay, I discern what even comes across the media. I can sense spiritually, like, I can look at them, say, no, something's wrong with this. I don't believe that story that's being told, but I'm looking in the eyes. The eyes don't lie, So visual communication is very, very important. And as you said, you need to see the body language. I need to see the body language.
Yeah.
I need to be able to see what you're saying. Okay, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
See I need to see what you're saying. So as much as and to me, especially when you have an issue with someone, to me, texting is the coward's way out.
Yeah.
Okay, because you don't want to deal with that person face to face and confront it face to face, even if it's on FaceTime, even if it's on Duo, and you can say all of this that you need to say on, what you say, son? I thought you made a comment. You can say all of this.
They have a lot of burden. They take care of the men, and to go through childbirth.
It's okay.
Yes. So, texting takes too long. My fingers don't work that fast with texting. The conversations get too long in texting. And I think that if you want to communicate, I think, you may start out, but I think there's a point where you need to say, let me see.
Yes.
Let me see what you're talking. Let me see what you're saying. And some way or another communicate visually and not just by text.
Yes. And Pastor Presley, as you give your thoughts on it, I just thought and just wanted to say that also your message can be lost or misunderstood through a text message. I mean, there could be a true misunderstanding because you're just reading something into those words that weren't there, or you're missing something in those words that was there. But if you just pick up the phone, or we can just sit next to each other, even if it's 6 feet apart, if we could just get in the same space and communicate, I think there's less of a chance of misunderstanding, because there could be, even face to face, you can, still get some things wrong and take something the wrong way. But I think there's less of a chance of that with a real conversation. So Pastor Presley, what do you think?
Well, good communication leads to intimacy. Being intimate with each other after when we talk. And intimacy is not just all physical; it is mental. It's stimulating to sit and have a good conversation with someone, getting to know someone, getting to laugh at them, finding out that they're funny or witty or something like that. That produces intimacy, which allows us to now trust each other, now allows us to open up to each other. And that's what good, healthy, face-to-face communication can do.
Yes. So we are coming just under the hour. I know we started a few minutes late, but we have a few minutes left. So in that, Pastor May, I want to give you a few minutes to give a final thought, and then Pastor Presley will go to you just for the final words of the night.
In any relationship, and I think it's been made quite clear on tonight, communication is key. You've got to talk it out. Even if you got to talk while you're crying, you need to be able to communicate with one another. It's vital to be able to understand what the other person is thinking, feeling, and be able to give each other the opportunity to talk and finish what they're saying. A lot of times people talk over one another because they're trying to get their point across. But give each other an ample opportunity, ample time to finish what they need to say and complete their thinking and their thought process. And I think once that technique is captured, I think that you'll be able to better understand each other. And also, talk about what you would like to see in the relationship. And as Pastor Presley has said earlier in the conversation, things that people don't do, they don't make a plan for their present or their future when it comes to what are you looking for in the relationship. Rather it be a relationship between a man and woman who wants to, take it further. Whatever relationship that you're dealing with, there should be a vision and a plan for how you want the relationship to go. Mm-hmm. Even if it's a sister and a brother, mm-hmm. And you have not had good relationships. Let's come up with a plan. Let's come up with a vision that says, okay, this is what I think we could do to make our relationship. People don't want to write things down, mm-hmm. Even if you don't write it down, I think it's still even a verbal vision that is you're able to really do. Not nothing so crazy that you're not ready to handle at that particular time, but something that is manageable, mm-hmm. that you both can work on to make your communication and your life a little bit easier, and the issue make it easier to resolve it, to come to some type of resolution.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Pastor Presley, your final words on tonight?
Yes, again, thank you for this opportunity. My final words, I would say, would be this. I know we want to have been in a relationship, but I would say before I be in a relationship, I need to make sure that I'm confident in me, that I'm ready to date, that I'm ready to be in a relationship. And that I should be able to take time for me and then write down what I want and write down what I can get. Mm-hmm. Because it can't just be one-sided. Oh, I want a man with money. I want a man with this. I want a man with that. That's great. But what is that man getting? Mm-hmm. What is he getting? So a relationship, and some people may not be ready for a relationship. Mm-hmm. Some of us need to date ourselves for a while. Get to know you again. Mm-hmm. A good topic, suffering and silence. You might need to start ending the suffering in you before you can be dateable. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to date, but are you dateable? Mm-hmm. It's one thing to have a relationship, but are you ready for a relationship? And I believe if we ever answer those questions, we can start to walk into a healthy relationship. But I think it starts with us first. Mm-hmm. Not the other person. It starts with us.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to my co-host, Pastor May Davis, and to my guest again, Pastor Henry Presley. Luv Bay, if you want to catch up on previous episodes from the program on YouTube, you can visit our channel, Suffering in Silence DV. We thank you again for joining Suffering in Silence with Tia May on Luv Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. We are rising out of the ashes together. Good evening.